If you've ever paid a large amount of cash into your bank, sold a car for notes, received money from your children, or simply moved your own savings from one account to another, there's something happening behind the counter that nobody ever properly explains to you. Your bank is watching that money, not because they think you're a criminal, because by law they have to. And here's the part that genuinely worries me. It isn't the watching that gets decent people into trouble. It's what they do once they find out about it. The instinct that feels so sensible, so cautious, so very keep it tidy and don't make a fuss. That exact instinct is the one decision that can turn perfectly legal money into a frozen account, a letter from an agency you've never heard of, and in the worst cases, months of stress to get your own money back. I've come across this happening to people whose only crime was trying to be careful. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to make sure you're never one of them. I'm Thomas Ashford, and let's start by clearing up the single biggest misunderstanding around this, because it comes from across the Atlantic and it does real damage here. A lot of people believe there's a magic number, £10,000, and the moment you go over it, a form automatically gets sent to the government. That's an American idea. In the US, there genuinely is an automatic report triggered by a cash threshold. We don't have that here. There is no automatic form in the UK that fires off the second you cross a number. But, and this is a big but, please don't mistake there's no automatic form for nobody's looking. Because the British system works differently, and that difference is exactly what makes it dangerous if you don't understand it. Here's how it actually works in plain English. The whole framework comes from a piece of legislation called the Proceeds of Crime Act, which people in this space just call POCR. Under it, banks, building societies, solicitors and accountants have a legal duty, if they suspect, or even have reasonable grounds to suspect, that money passing through their hands might be connected to crime, they have to report it. Not to the taxman, to the National Crime Agency, through something called a Suspicious Activity Report, a SAR. Here's the crucial difference from the American system. There's no minimum amount. None. A SAR can be filed on a transaction of £200 if the pattern around it looks wrong, and a perfectly explained deposit of £50,000 might generate nothing at all. It isn't the size of the money that triggers it, it's the story the money tells. So what does the bank actually look for? Not a number on its own, a pattern. The software these banks run is built to spot one thing above everything else: behaviour that looks like someone trying to stay under the radar. And this brings me to a word that has caused more trouble for honest people in this country than almost any other: structuring. Some people call it smurfing. It's when you take a sum of money and deliberately break it into smaller chunks to avoid drawing attention. £3,000 on Monday, £2,500 on Thursday, another £3,000 the following week, maybe at a different branch to mix it up. You think you're being discreet. The software thinks it's watching someone behave exactly like a person trying not to be noticed, and it genuinely cannot tell the difference. It doesn't know you sold a caravan. It doesn't know your daughter gave you money for a new boiler. It just sees a shape, and that shape is exactly what it's built to hunt for. Now, before you get worried, I want to be clear. The vast majority of SARs go absolutely nowhere. Hundreds of thousands are filed every year, and most simply sit in a database as background information. Nobody knocks on your door. Nobody freezes a penny. A SAR is not an accusation. It's not a fine, and it's not the taxman opening an inquiry. Most of the time, it's just paperwork. But it's the doorway through which more serious consequences can arrive, and once you understand what those are, you'll understand why I'm so insistent you never give the system a reason to walk through that door. Quick moment. If you're finding this useful already, hit subscribe now, because what I'm about to walk you through next is the part that actually protects you. The first serious consequence most people have never heard of is called an account freezing order. An enforcement officer, that could be the National Crime Agency, the police, or HMRC, can apply to a magistrate's court to freeze the money sitting in your account. Not a senior judge weighing complex evidence, a magistrate's court, and the threshold is simply reasonable grounds to suspect the money might be connected to unlawful conduct. No conviction needed, no charge, no arrest, and it can be applied for without any notice to you at all. The first you'll know of it is your card being declined at the till. Here's the part that feels almost unbelievable until you understand the logic behind it. There's a criminal offence in this country called tipping off. If a bank employee tells you that a suspicious activity report has been raised or that an investigation is underway, that employee has committed a crime carrying up to 5 years in prison. So the person on the phone who can hear you getting upset is legally not allowed to help you, even if they want to. You're left in limbo with your own honestly earned money frozen behind a wall of silence. Let me give you a fairly typical example of how this plays out. Picture a widower in his early 70s who ran a small market stall for 40 years. Fruit and veg, all above board, all declared. When he finally wound the business down, he had a reasonable amount of cash built up from the last couple of years of trading, kept at home in a safe, because that's simply how his generation did things. He decided to bank it and close that chapter. A well-meaning relative told him, "Don't put it all in at once. You'll set off alarm bells. Spread it out." So he paid in £4,500 here, £3,000 there, over about 6 weeks, sometimes at different counters. He thought he was being sensible. What he was actually doing to the software was textbook structuring. The account got frozen, and because the money had been spread across weeks with no single clean record, there was no easy way to prove where 2 years of honest trading income had come from. It took months, a solicitor, and a great deal of unnecessary stress to get it released. And here's the cruel irony. If he'd simply walked in and paid the whole amount in one go, with a folder of records under his arm, the very thing his relative warned him against is exactly what would have kept him safe. So let me turn this around, because I never want to leave you worried without giving you the fix. And the fix is wonderfully simple. It's the exact opposite of what most people's instinct tells them. Deposit it all at once, and let your paperwork do the talking. Your paperwork is your shield, and it's the single most important protection you have in this entire situation. Let's walk through the real moments in ordinary life where this actually comes up. The first is selling something valuable for cash. A car, a caravan, jewellery. Say you sell your car privately for £9,000 in cash. The wrong move, the one that feels careful, is to pay in £4,000. Wait, then pay in the rest. The right move is to pay the whole £9,000 in one transaction and keep a copy of the receipt or bill of sale. Names, date, amount, both signatures. If the cashier asks where it came from, you say 5 words. "I sold my car privately," and show the paper if you have it. That's the end of it. The second is a gift from family, which trips people up because of confusion about tax. Say your son gives you £8,000 in cash to help with bills. Here's the truth. In the UK, receiving a gift isn't taxable income to you at all. You don't declare it, you don't pay tax on it. The only tax that could ever come into play is inheritance tax on the giver's estate, and only if they were to pass away within 7 years. And even then, that's a matter for their estate, not you. So you pay the £8,000 in as one deposit, and ask your son to jot down a couple of lines. Names, date, amount, and the sentence, "This is a gift with no expectation of repayment." 2 minutes, and it's the difference between a clean record and an awkward conversation. The third is genuinely upsetting, because it tends to catch people at their lowest, moving your own money. Perhaps you've lost a partner and you're consolidating accounts. Perhaps you're just simplifying things as you get older. This is your money. You've already paid tax on it. You've done nothing wrong. And yet, if you move it across in smaller amounts over several weeks, the software doesn't see a careful pensioner tidying up their affairs. It sees the same shape as laundered cash. The answer is the same. Move it in one clean transfer where you can, and keep both statements and the transfer confirmation. The fourth is inheritance. Say a sibling passes away and leaves you £20,000 from their estate. For most families, there's no tax for you personally to pay on receiving it. That's already been dealt with by the estate. If it arrives as cash rather than a cheque, the danger is identical to the others. Pay it in as a single deposit and keep the letter from the executor or solicitor showing where it came from. And the fifth is a large, legitimate lump sum from an official source: a deferred state pension payment, a tax-free pension lump sum, a compensation payout, or a matured investment. That money arrives properly in one amount. The mistake people make is panicking at the sight of a large balance and shuffling it into smaller pots. And that shuffling is exactly the behaviour that draws attention. Leave it be. The records already match on both ends. Do you see the thread running through all five? In every case, the safe move and the instinctive move are opposites. The instinct is to be quiet and spread it out. The safe thing is to be open, do it in one go and carry the proof. In this country, transparency is your armour, and quietly trying to avoid attention is what actually creates the risk. A few practical things worth knowing that have genuinely shifted recently. First, banks have brought in their own daily limits on cash deposits, separate from anything to do with crime reporting, and these vary a lot between banks. Some allow £20,000 a day at the counter, others cap personal accounts as low as £5,000, and post office deposits often come with tighter limits still. So if you've got a large sum to bank, ring your bank first and ask two questions. What's my cash deposit limit, and what would you like me to bring to show where it came from? A 2-minute call can save you a wasted, embarrassing trip. Second, and this one works in your favour, newer rules mean banks now have to give proper notice and a clear explanation before closing an account, with limited exceptions where a genuine investigation makes that impossible. That's a real improvement, because for years people had accounts shut with no warning at all. And third, worth knowing, HMRC has a power that lets them go directly to your bank and request your financial records without asking your permission first, and the bank doesn't have to tell you they've handed anything over. That's a tax tool rather than a crime one, but it underlines the same lesson from a different angle. The only sensible strategy is making sure that whatever anyone sees tells a clean, honest, consistent story. You can't control whether they look. You can absolutely control what they find. Let me give you the exact words to use, and the words to avoid at the counter. When the cashier asks where the money came from, and that's completely normal, it's part of their job, the right response is short and calm. I sold my car. It's a gift from my daughter. I'm consolidating my savings. One sentence, hand over whatever paperwork backs it up. Done. What you should never do, don't ramble through your whole life story, because the more you say, the more there is to write down, and a long, anxious explanation reads very differently on a file than a calm, single sentence. And never say anything like, I didn't want to go over a limit, or will this get reported, or is there a way to do this so it doesn't flag up? Those words can end up written straight into the very report you're trying to avoid, because they sound exactly like someone who knows the rules and is trying to dodge them. And if a cashier ever offers to break a deposit up to make it easier, the answer is always no. And if the worst does happen, a letter arrives or your account gets frozen, don't try to explain yourself on the spot. Don't sign anything. Don't answer detailed questions in a panic. Simply say you'd like to take advice before responding, and speak to a solicitor who specifically deals with proceeds of crime and financial matters. The instinct to immediately prove your innocence by talking is completely natural, and almost always a mistake. Here's the heart of all of it. The report isn't the crime. The watching isn't the crime. None of this framework exists to catch a 71-year-old market trader banking his honest takings. It exists to catch drug money and fraud. The trouble is, the software cannot tell the difference between someone hiding money and a careful pensioner following well-meaning but wrong advice. It sees behaviour, not intentions. And the one behaviour that makes you look like the former is breaking your money up to avoid attention. So don't. Pay it in whole. Keep your proof. Tell the simple truth in one sentence. Before I go, here's something practical you can do this week in about 5 minutes that protects you for years. Start a folder, paper or digital, whichever suits you, and call it something simple. Every time a meaningful sum lands in your account, put 3 things in it. 1. A single line in your own words. Received £8,000 from my son as a gift, the 14th of June. 2. Whatever backs it up. The bill of sale, the gift note, the probate letter. 3. The bank statement or transfer confirmation showing the money going in. That's it. You'll almost certainly never need it, but if you ever do, you'll be very glad you spent those 5 minutes. There's no exemption for being honest your whole life. The rules apply equally to everyone. But the people who keep clean records and pay things in whole are the ones who sleep soundly, because they know the answer is sitting in a folder in a drawer if anyone ever asks. If this was useful, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Turn on the bell icon so you're notified the moment I post. And please share this with someone in your life who's about to sell a car, receive an inheritance, or come into a bit of money, because a quarter of an hour now can save someone months of unnecessary worry later. I'm Thomas Ashford. I'll see you in the next one.